डिसेंबर 2022 जाली लास्ट इयर ती खंय तरी इलिगल असली म्हणून तेंच्यांनी हाय पावर कमिटी फॉर्म कर म्हणून सांगला तेंचे तुमची कितें म्हणणें
सो एक सांगता हांव इन मॅटरान इनवॉल्व आशिल्लो हायकोर्टाची आनी I was appearing in the matter and I know very well what was going on on the ground reality हांव जाणा. What has happened is High Court was issuing directions from time to time and it was being hoped that the High Court directions would be complied with. But unfortunately what we have seen over the years is that High Court directions and the law was thrown to the winds and people did not care and conducted events in such a manner that it became a casualty for people who are living there. The first thing which the High Court has, before tackling the permission which was granted, was to deal with factual situation what happened. Factual situation कितें जाला High Courtan reports पळयले and in the reports it is showing that the decibel levels were as high as 70 to 80 which were exceedingly high above 55. Despite this, the show was going on and all authorities were there, which only means that they were blessing the event and they were not stopping the event. High Court has come down to show that people were in the middle of the event even pointing out that there are these violations going on, and High Court has demonstrated that in open court one was passing the buck on to the other. While the Pollution Control Board tried to pass on the buck to the police inspector and the SDM, they tried to say we never got any instructions. The question of getting instruction is not needed, because when you are on the site, when you are at the locality and you are monitoring it, then there is no question of you trying to say I was not aware. Even without monitoring, without equipment, you know more or less there is a prima facie violation. The only question is how much is the violation, but you know what is a permissible sound level and what is the decibel the moment it increases. So the first thing which the High Court found was about rampant violation taking place on those days, 28th to 30th of December 2022, with the authorities being mute spectators. This is the word of the High Court, mute spectators at the event. Now the reason which they tried to give was, the police and the magistrate tried to say that they were there for law and order, and because they were controlling the crowd and they were looking after law and order, they could not attend to this. And it is in that context that the Chief Secretary recommended a high-powered committee, a coordination committee, and this is what it is supposed to be put into effect, which the High Court has directed. With great respect, I would, with great respect, submit that I would not agree to such a committee, because again the same officers will be on duty for law and order. When we had filed a petition and I was arguing on behalf of Arnal Costa in the High Court, we had made a suggestion: appoint other officers to come to monitor, because the other officers who are of the rank of SP and deputy collectors, executive magistrates, they can come and they can monitor, while you are left to law and order, because if you mix up the two, you will not be able to control both at the same time. Unfortunately, the government kept on giving assurances and our suggestion went in cold storage. So therefore I feel that this should be revived to allow this kind of external magisterial powers officers. There are many officers who are in the cold storage who are doing nothing. They can be brought in. Even police officers are in cold storage. They can be brought in, activated during this time. So then this becomes a good team. Now the second part of it is, the High Court then went to examine on the legality of the grant of the permission. And the High Court held that on the 5th of January 2022, the notification which was issued, on the basis of which these permissions were granted, there was complete breach of it. For the event of this scale which was being held, the High Court held that it was given in a great hurry overnight. The High Court has put a table to show when the application was made for sunburn permission, when it was granted, and when the Pollution Control Board permission and when the SDM permission was obtained. That was obtained on 27th, the other two were obtained on 27th for the event on 28th. Now this is very shocking because the High Court itself expresses it. You need time to make an analysis, you need time to get reports, because event of this scale requires not simply sound pollution but also monitoring, traffic circulation, law and order, security measures, all this has to be taken into account and then permission to be granted. So therefore, the High Court came down by saying that the permission granted was in breach of the rules, in breach of the law, and therefore quashed this permission. Now the question is, I ask, sometimes I think about it. You would remember some years back when sunburn was to be held, statements were made that sunburn will not be allowed to be held. And I think, I make a charge that these kind of statements are being made to increase the price, so that with the moment you say no, the organizers will come and offer more and then they get the permission. End of the day, what happened? There was never a year when we didn't have a sunburn which was going on without the blessings of the government. You may remember also, I mentioned it before, in the lanes in Saligaon, one tourism minister was meeting somebody there. There was photograph and video of that. And after that, permission was granted. This shady type of things happen. If permission was granted earlier, the High Court even said that people could have seen it and people could have moved the court or appropriate forum to challenge it. But by giving it a last minute, you don't give people chance. And the weight, the pressure increases. You see this kind of an attitude. They are so confident that they are getting the permission. They sell the tickets much in advance. Argument which will be used is, we can't sell tickets at the last minute and therefore we need to sell in advance. Can I sell ticket for an event which I don't know whether I'm holding or not? Unless I'm sure I'm holding that event, I'm not going to be selling any ticket. So therefore, when the advertisement is out, when the websites are open for bookings, you are very confident that you are going to have this festival. How and what manner, you know the game. This is a charge I make against the government, that this is nothing but a clear-cut, open-shut case of corruption. I say why corruption? Because you imagine, you and I go for permissions, we'll be asked to bring this document, bring that document, and will be made to run from pillar to post. We are holding a big event. The authorities clamp down on weddings, on small functions which poor people have, the common citizens are having. When it is big fish, you are standing there to protect it. You are standing there to allow it to happen. And you are standing there to allow it to happen in breach of the law. This is where it is. And I believe the High Court should have gone one step further to have asked the government to fix accountability for the grant of these permissions which have been given overnight. Simply quashing is one part of it, but fix accountability and take action against these people who have done this kind of breach. You will come to know whether they have done it on their own or they were pressurized by the government or some minister. Cat will come out of the bag. Sometimes the officer is innocent. The officer may have wilted under pressure, and that is why the officer might have just signed it. I don't know. I don't want to make an allegation that officer was in connivance with it. May not be, maybe, we don't know. But definitely this kind of an activity could not have gone on and been permitted without the blessings of the government. So now coming to this year's event, naturally they will have to apply for it. They'll have to process the application in that manner. The High Court has also said that in the event it is found that there is a crossing of the decibel limit, the equipment must be seized forthwith. And I think time has come that such kind of drastic action needs to be taken. They do this only in weddings. They do this in small parties of peoples in the villages. But here nothing happens. And the reason given by the officers was that it's an event of an international scale, so there was a lot of people coming and so there was a lot of pressure. You should have just said no. What would happen? No law and order would have happened. People would have gone to the office of those people and said, you return our money. Might have asked them compensation because we traveled and we came here, we booked hotel and now we don't have this. That is between those people and that event manager. There would have been no law and order over here. Just there would have been no event. Where's the question of law and order? Those people who came here would have enjoyed somewhere else. Might have been disappointed, might have been unhappy, might have been frustrated, but that would not have been a law and order in that sense of the word. This kind of a creation of a boogie of a law and order would have been taking place if we had not given the permission. Is totally bogus.
So can we say the government has compromised with this event organizer?
Government has not simply compromised, the government has cooperated. It has been party to it. The government has been like a partner in this.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. After 10 तांकां परमिशन दिवचें till 12 म्हणून. So एक टाइम कोर्टाची ऑर्डर आसा की जे टाइम लिमिट्स आसा ते फिक्स केल्ले आसा. खंयच्या तरी दिसा दिवप ते. So will that be affected also?
So कायदे प्रमाणे कितें आसा? All outdoor functions must be music, loud playing of music must stop at 10 o'clock. If music has to stop at 10 o'clock, they have given exemption for 15 days by the central government. The 15 days have been notified already by the government in the Gazette. So there is no scope to add to those 15 days, even by one day. So for these people to say that for these 3 days we are hopeful that the government will give, the government will not only be in breach of the law, but they will also be in contempt of the Supreme Court and of the High Court.
So saying that the news about above after 10 would not be any time permissible.
One thing is officially granting the permission. Not possible, because the 15 days is already covered by the notification and the law says clearly up to 10 p.m. and not beyond. So it's not possible for them officially to give. Unofficially, if they try to allow them to continue, they will be in breach.
On that about 10
Authorities will be in breach and the organizer will be in breach.
About 10 p.m.
Above 10 p.m.
Now, even the environment minister said we will also keep a strict vigil on this decimal, and we won't allow that. And strict action will be taken if it goes against the High Court norms. What is yours there?
Assurances were made last time. They said they would make monitoring. I am only hoping that these words will ring true when the festival begins.